Hello and welcome to Infocus. In today's episode we have a guest, Mr. Anwar Ghani from FIANZ. In 2 episodes he will be answering some important questions relating to FIANZ and its role in Muslim community in New Zealand. Who decides and how the new moon sighting is announced?
There are a number of people who are designated that they go and do look for moon in different areas of New Zealand. The announcement of new months is done on the confirmation of sighting of the moon, either here in New Zealand or our co-partner that is in Fiji. Because why Fiji? Because we are almost in the same time zone. That's why. In the recent few years, we have been having also a discussion that perhaps we could go to places like Queensland or parts of Australia where we could also include. I'll come back to this later. So and this responsibility is coordinated by FIANZ. So whoever is the chairperson of our religious advisory board or ulama board, that person is then is in charge of making that announcement. After confirming, following there's a procedure which is defined in that how this will be done. So, and it is fair to say that we haven't got all the time 100% right. And that is, but I would say that we have been 95% of the time right. And having FIANZ that responsibility of announcement and coordination, we have also been able to keep the unity of the community. Unity is very important, paramount. And often some of the communities who have perhaps not agreed with the announcement, but they will go with the ijma and say that, okay, alhamdulillah, because so we'd like to thank them for their understanding, and that's how it is to be done.
Why is there always differences amongst the Muslims on the Ramadan and Shawwal moon sighting?
Moon sighting and announcement of new month Islamic calendar is one of the most responsible and critical job which FIANZ does. And we are grateful to all those who are involved in that system, who really have dedicated themselves to make sure that our system works as best as it can. Having said that, as I said, that we are a very pluralistic community. We have come from different parts of the world where different systems have operated. Some even just they believe in the calendar, calculations and calendar, and the date is predetermined. Many of them come from where there's a ruya system, an announcement system. And some of them, they feel that they need to be connected to their homeland where they came from. So if we say Eid is today, then they need to celebrate here, which is not a right perception. It's not a right thing to do, because there are several, like say example in the hadith and references that where you go, you follow the community, not where you have come from. And in this day and age of information technology and information sharing at such a fast pace, that creates a whole lot of tension. So, okay, Eid was in my country X, Eid happened yesterday, and New Zealand is supposed to be announced, they should be ahead, but they are a day behind. Those type of things. But I think by and large we have done effectively quite well. given that we are living in a non-Islamic country as a minority. I think FIANZ, despite its shortfall in some areas, has done exceedingly well.
Please share your first few moments of 15th March terrorist attacks and the steps taken by FIANZ.
Yes, it's really horrific. It was a horrific thing what happened to our Muslim brothers and sisters in New Zealand, because this was the last place one would expect that something like this would happen. Be as may, it is our role and responsibility that we stand up for our community, we look after our community, we organize our community, we connect our community, and we collectively take their grievances and try to deal with those. When this happened, I actually was in Dubai. I got a call from New Zealand police saying something terrible has happened at the Al-Noor Mosque. And then a few seconds later, I got another call to say it's not only Al-Noor, but Linwood Mosque as well. And then about an hour later, another call came saying that the person who has done that has been apprehended. Right. At that stage, we were not too sure. I had to cut my own involvement, stay in Dubai and just take the next flight, come home. Before that was that, so as a unit, as a FIANZ unit, of course, I came back and straight into Christchurch. Our own president, Dr. Mustafa Farooq, was already on the ground there. And then we had about 15, 17, 18 people of our community from different parts of New Zealand were already there. Yes, so we made sure that first of all we get hold of the situation on the ground. Secondly, to make sure that those who have lost their loved ones, how could we wrap them around and provide the comfort and love, although they are in the most vulnerable and in a situation of rage, disbelief, and all that. And because of our partnership with New Zealand Police, whom we have had the memorandum of understanding the last 14 years, that played quite well in terms of dealing with this, because we never had a trust issue between us, and the way whole New Zealand came together to ensure that that they do their best what they can in that circumstances, because it was not, yes, it was an attack on Muslim community. It was an attack driven by hatred and Islamophobia and xenophobia. It was attack on New Zealand as well. So there was a disbelief all around, and Muslims within New Zealand, they also rushed to help as much as they could. But FIANZ coordinated all that to make sure that our people are identified on time, quickly. There's a team to wash them. There's a team which can coordinate burial. There's a team which can comfort people, the near and dear ones who have been left behind. And also at the same time looking at this issue of those the financial assistance and so on and so forth. FIANZ was the first which provided the first. We released the fund very quickly, immediately, without worrying about any donations or collections. That at least that those who've been affected, that just go and provide the basic needs to them without asking. And that was done in collaboration with our local brothers and sisters there from Muslim Association of Canterbury. So as a whole, it was everything was quite. Um, uh, there was a while we all had disbelief about what had happened. We realized that how could we were there on the ground with the knowing the severity of what has happened. At the same time, while we were grieving inside, we had to stay calm and be collective to make sure that we demonstrate that what Islam is under this horrifying moment. And a lot of credit should also go to our own community, the way community conducted itself, and showed to the rest of the world that what the meaning of our religion and how Allah has given us this beautiful deen to cope with the most horrible of the things in life.
How does FIANZ see the government's response on 15th March attacks?
The way everything was dealt on the day on that week, we were grateful of the government coming forward, showing a very compassionate but determined response, calling what it was, not couching it in any other way. And Prime Minister has to be congratulated for her leadership in raising that voice, and also showing the human face.
What steps and precautions have been employed for security in the mosques?
So immediately after that, as you know, the mosques in New Zealand have always been open to public. Anytime anybody can come in and pray and go. Only they are locked in the nights, and we like to sort of continue that way. However, we want to really be a bit more vigilant. So there are currently now the security assessment of each of the places where people are gathering for prayers, mosques or musallas, are being done. FIANZ is going to complete by end of December 46 places. And in some of them, they might be able to help a bit to improve their security and take some measures which will improve security of people. There are some advanced camera systems which are coming into play, which can detect if people are carrying metals and things like that, or guns. So having those things on one side, having the technology, but you're making sure that those things are monitored, and there are processes in place, and that may Allah forbid, but if somebody dares to do any of those things, then Muslims are not going to see those type of casualties, and we should be able to then manage ourselves much better. So yes, security is improving at most of the places. The two places, of course, the one which were affected directly, they have got one of the most advanced system put in there in their place, and being monitored not only locally but also by the police in that area. And we're looking at putting similar type of things all around. We do realize that it has jolted the community. There is more consciousness on those type of things, and people are also that thinking of before it was a welcoming place, anybody could come and be there. Perhaps they are a bit more watchful who's coming and visiting us and interacting with us.
What support programs or funds are or were available for the victims of 15th of March 2019?
So many people were affected, and New Zealanders, they came out very strongly made contribution up to about $20 million as a country. We saw that it was important for us, for transparency purposes, that we channel most of this through one agency. And so whatever the contribution Muslim organizations made, including FIANZ, they channel it through that organization, which was Victim Support. Victim Support has had a history of being involved and being trusted with those type of responsibilities where they have done very well. So the funds which were collected were distributed through the channel, and most of the families, those shuhada's families, they have received a direct cash payment. Not too sure about the figures, but I think that they would have each received at least $75,000 as a cash, and those who were injured somewhere around 40,000 or something like that individually. But this government has made some funding through Department of Health for mental health. There is extra funding has been allocated to Ministry for Ethnic Affairs from office, whereby more people are involved and who are interacting with the Muslim community. We also had a donation from Qatar Charity, which we are looking at maybe in supporting some infrastructure in Christchurch, and some towards the mental health side of things. So FIANZ's role has been more of an enabler than providing a lot of funding itself. Our sources are limited, but nonetheless, as I said, that when this happened, immediately nearly $60,000 was released from FIANZ within the first week of before even any government help could be.
How is FIANZ helping the victims' families?
There are ongoing issues, as you know, that this event has left 38 widows. The issues surrounding them and their well-being and their families are huge, and it is. I don't think that FIANZ will be able to manage to support those, but we do see that our small role somewhere, but those are mainly dealt by the government agencies. And we are working, we're providing the advocacy for the people, and where we can help directly engaging our people or employing some of the experts who are from our own community to go and help them to make sure that they are not forgotten. The victims and victims' families are not forgotten. Yeah.
How FIANZ is tracing funds records and auditing the support money?
Yes, it's already been done by Victim Support. As I said, that one agency, because you don't want to create confusion that this agency is giving that much and they give this much. So all the money put together and from one source is distributed. So there is a good traceability. Otherwise, the confidence will be dented if there is no accountability. So those who collected, they handed it over to Victim Support, and Victim Support then distributed. So they have got all the records of how this being, who contributed how much, and how this has gone through. Okay? Yeah. So as I said, that information is already public domain. If you go to Victim Support's their website, you can download that, and I'm not too sure though whether we have provided the link through our site, but it's already available. Almost certainly, I think they will go through and audit that, making sure that the funds have been distributed. The funds should not be sitting in if they've been targeted fund. So from FIANZ's perspective, that what was collected by FIANZ that time is what's all channeled very quickly. The only, as I said, that one fund which we got from Qatar Charity, where we're looking at having structural support, what we're looking at some of the women and the orphans, we're looking at buying maybe 2 or 3 apartments which can be rented to these people at a very minimum cost. The money then which comes out is also used in the welfare of those people, ongoing people. FIANZ, our interfaith partners such as like the Jewish community collected nearly $1.1 million, and they went and they deposited that money to Christchurch Foundation. They wanted to. They said that they would like to have a person from FIANZ. That is, most of their fund is going for educational and mental health purpose. They wanted a representative of FIANZ to be involved in their, in a process, consultation process.
Is there any program/project in partnership with the New Zealand government and security institutes to make NZ safer and bring communities together?
It's a continuous struggle, and it's a continuous it's a program which will continue. Yes, we're having a greater partnership with the government. We are also partnering with a number of NGOs and interfaith communities in a more on a more proactive basis. We're looking at also that maybe 15th of March becoming a day of contemplation and reflection and prayers, in so that we can memorialize those 51 people who are no longer with us. And this part is simply, we don't want to let it go to be somehow added as a two-line in our history, but it becomes a reminder that what hatred can lead to, and what we need to do to make sure that we do not we do not create a society which really harbors those type of hatred, whether it is our own community or any other community. So, so the loss of their blood is not forgotten, and their lives are not forgotten.
Any message for the Muslims and wider community of New Zealand?
First of all, I'll say that, okay, congratulations to Salam TV for really coming through and trying to reach out to the Muslim community and wider community on Islamic issues and Muslim specific issues, as well as maybe wider community issues. So I want to congratulate for this initiative, and the secondly is that it is very important that we really as a community remain united despite our shortfalls, and the unity is the only way which we can achieve things, not only for our own community but for New Zealand in the most positive manner possible. We also, I would like to, particularly to our Muslim viewers, I would like to encourage, please get involved as a volunteer in your organization, in your masjid, in Islamic centers, in your schools, and in any other sphere of life which New Zealand provides you. And this will broaden your horizon. It will also create a spirit of giving, and the satisfaction which you will get out of that is immense. Money cannot buy those things.